My name is Carolyn, and I talk to the spirit world. Travel with me to a dimension filled with love, light, and joyful surprises. Welcome to Carolyn's Psychic Playroom.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carolyn Wilkins, and I am once again honored to welcome you to this edition of Carolyn's Psychic Playroom. As always, I have a wonderful guest to share with you, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. But first of all, just greetings, greetings, greetings. We are now at the beginning of February. Amazing. As you can see, I'm still not in the studio. I'm at home, but it's starting to feel kind of like this is just how things are going to be, at least for now. So I hope you are all bearing up well, even with the confinement and the COVID and so forth. Hopefully, I'm hoping that you'll find some joy. And I'm hoping that actually my guest today is going to help you in that respect, particularly if you enjoy reading about interesting people. My guest today is an author. Her name is Sharon DeBartolo Carmack, and this is her book. It's about Maria B. Hayden, who was an amazing lady who you've probably never heard of. I hadn't really heard of her before, but Sharon has done an amazing amount of work into this woman who was a pioneering spiritualist, practicing spiritualist at the beginning of spiritualism back in the 1800s. But not only that, she was a doctor, she was a brilliant intellectual. We're going to learn all about her very soon, and I'm going to let my guest Sharon tell you some more about her. Before I bring Sharon up, however, I always like to offer a little bit of a reading for the group. Just a reading for the collective to give you a feeling of what some of the energies might be out there as you're going out about your day today. So this interview is going to air in early February, so I'm going to ask my Andinkara cards, which are these little cards that come from they make use of the sacred symbols of Ghana, which are called Andinkara symbols. And I'm going to just ask my cards to show us what are some characteristics or qualities or things that we might want to be aware of in this first week of February. All right, so I'm going to shuffle the cards. And let's see, what do we need to know? What are the characteristics, the qualities, the aspects that will be important for us as we are entering this first week in February? Okay, so I'm going to shuffle the cards. Now I'm going to spread them out. And let's see what they want to tell us. And this one that comes is endurance. Isn't that the truth? This has been a long, long slog. As you well know, I was talking to my husband today, and he was reminding me that, in fact, it's been nearly a year since, perhaps a little over a year actually, since the very first case of COVID was discovered, and all the developments and all the drama and all the things that have gone on in this time. And what this card is telling me is that although, yes, now we have the vaccine and hopefully things are going to be getting better, we're still going to need to call on our endurance, our strength, and to hang in there for the long haul, because this is not something that's going to just go away. The world seems to be in the middle of a big upheaval, a big shakeout in general, and this is not going to be a fast moving energetic pattern. So make sure that you're exercising self-care, taking care of yourself in all the ways that you need to do that, and make sure that you're focused on finding at least one or two things during the course of your day for which you can be grateful. I have found this enormously helpful to have this kind of gratitude practice, and also to think about what brings us joy, and not just fleeting joy, but what are the lasting things that really give us joy, and to make sure that we are moving toward those things in our lives. We're going to need all the stamina that we can get. That's what this card is saying. And one thing that I know contributes to my stamina and feelings of feeling, good, and that I can cope with things, is that I make a definite connection every day to my higher self, to the spirit beyond, in whatever way you look at that. And I pray every morning. I wake up, I pray, I thank God for the blessings that have been given to me, and I ask to be shown where I can make a positive difference, at least in some small way, during the day. And I also ask that whatever I have to do that day, that I'm able to do it with joy. So that's my little suggestion for you and message from the cards, endurance. And so, having kind of taken care of that little business, let's go on ahead and meet our guest. So here comes the interview that I recorded with her a few weeks ago. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another wonderful edition of Carolyn's Psychic Playroom. I have a fabulous guest today. I'm very excited. She's an author. She's a genealogical researcher. She's a brilliant medium, teacher of mediumship, and probably a lot of other things that we will also find out about in the course of this call. But please give a warm welcome to Sharon DeBartolo Carmack. I do it again. Sharon DeBartolo Carmack. Woo!
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you. Thank you for getting my name out.
You are very welcome. So I have known you for a few years because actually we were in the same mediumship group together. So before we launch into talking about your new book, I would like to ask you just a little bit about mediumship in general.
Sure.
How did you get started in it? What sort of prompted you? What tipped you over the edge with that?
Well, I'm a late bloomer. Prior to deciding that I wanted to be a medium at the age of 57, I had absolutely no experience with anything to do with the spirit world, or I probably was as psychic as a brick. I didn't,
That's funny.
But I was watching the Long Island Medium. I just happened to stop on that show and watch the Long Island Medium, and I thought, gee, I wonder if anybody can do this, because I've been a genealogist at that time for 25 years or so, or a little less than 25 years, and I was communicating with dead ancestors. Well, all ancestors are dead, but ancestors, but they weren't talking back. At least they weren't talking back in the way I wanted them to talk back. So I started reading books, and I couldn't find a development circle at that time. I didn't know how to find a development circle, so I read books, and then I just decided I'm going to just jump in, and I did 100 free phone readings. I put the word out to a friend on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. And I said, if you know, and the word free, they all came running. And I explained to them, I'm just developing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm self-taught, but if you will bear with me, then we'll go for it. And so that's what I did. I did 100 free readings. And by then I had found circles and classes to join.
Wow, that's a great story. And on many levels, I love the 100 free readings part, but I also like that, some people think that in order to be a medium, you need to have been having visions from the age of 5, angels appeared by your bedside and so forth. And many people actually have had those experiences, but there are also plenty of people like yourself who were just, quote, ordinary people, yet somehow this faculty was lying in wait for just the right moment to come. And you mentioned being a genealogist. I do, with you, share a fascination with ancestors and with ancestor research. So that now kind of leads me towards your new book. So I'm not even going to try to tell people. I would like for you to just share with us a little bit about the new book. And first of all, the name of the amazing woman that you are documenting.
Well, I just happen to have a copy of the book here, so let me show that. The book is called In Search of Maria B. Hayden, the American medium who brought spiritualism to the United Kingdom, or the UK. This was in 1852 and 1853. If you are a spiritualist, you've probably heard of her, but don't know much about her except that she brought spiritualism to the UK. And that's probably all you know. Mm-hmm. And when I first heard about her as a spiritualist myself, that's all I knew, but the genealogist in me wanted to know more. So I started researching her and discovered a whole life there that was untapped. So I've got her from cradle to grave and beyond in this book, her life story. Wow. And I say, I don't know whether she picked me or I picked her or it was a mutual thing, but boy, 4 years of research on this lady, and she is just a remarkable woman. She started out as a spirit medium in the 1850s. Mm-hmm. And then after she got back from England in 53, she continued to hold seances and do private sittings. But then she went on to healing mediumship and became a healing medium for a good number of years. That was in Boston. Then moved to New York City and established her reputation there as a healing medium and a spirit medium. Mm-hmm. And then in 1866, 1867, in her 40s, went to medical school and became a medical doctor.
Wow. Oh, that's wonderful.
I know. And one of the things, she so wowed the medical community because she had this ability to diagnose using what she called clairosympathy. Now we know about clairvoyance, clear seeing, clear audience, clear hearing, etc. She coined the term clairosympathy, meaning clear sympathy with the body, with the person's body. Mm-hmm. And so what she did actually was a form of psychometry. She held the person's hand and she was able to tell everything medically that was wrong and then receive from her spirit helpers the remedies.
Wow.
So she brought that with her to medical school. And so one physician said that her name was forgotten by the Board of Health because she never had to sign any death certificates. She was so good at diagnosing and healing.
What a wonderful and what a remarkable woman. And correct me if I'm wrong, women doctors, medical doctors, were not very common in this period, right?
No, she was not the first woman doctor in America. That was Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell. But she's of a small handful. In her class in medical school, there were only 3 women. And I forget, I think there were 9 men and 3 women, and that's it. And that was the other fascinating part of my research, is researching what a woman's experience was like going to medical school versus a man's experience.
Absolutely, because I was going to say, did she face discrimination and that type of thing?
Apparently not. At least I could find that with her mediumship. I could find a lot of critics of her mediumship.
Yes.
She rapidly earned the trust and respect of her male medical colleagues. In fact, she was the only woman on a committee to help review and examine people who were acting as physicians, like a clairvoyant physician, and didn't have a medical license. And so she was part of the committee to review those cases.
Interesting.
And so she had a great deal of respect. She wrote medical articles, which I've reproduced in the book. The book is it's a combination. The first half is narrative, it tells her story, and the second half is more reference material. I've reproduced all of her medical articles. I've got her genealogy, her husband's genealogy. I've got various things, and so it's really a combination story and reference book.
Fascinating. And I know with these kind of things also, in addition to the life of the person that you're writing about, there's also your journey as biographers. We also go on a journey, right? And because you are yourself a medium, I'm wondering whether you didn't feel her or hear her, feel her close, maybe whispering in your ear, look in this book, go over here, or when stuck for research material and that type of thing.
Absolutely. I didn't physically hear her, but I would talk to her and say, okay, what do we need to do next? Where do we go next? And people keep saying, it was a 4-year project, and people kept saying, when's the book going to be done? And I kept saying, when she tells me it's done. When she tells me I have nothing else to look for. And I remember one day I said to her, okay, we're nearing the end. I think I've researched everything. You know, if I haven't, speak now or forever hold your peace. And sure enough, that day I found a record that I had not looked at before. So, yeah, she definitely guided my research. And in fact, I believe that part, if not the whole reason I became a medium, was to tell her story.
Nice. And it could best be told by someone who has experienced that whole thing of mediumship, because I know that a lot of people write about mediums and such. And for example, you may have read The Witch of Lime Street, this book and that. And these are, I mean, it's a very interesting book and very well written and all that, but I couldn't help feeling this is not a person who is themselves a medium. They don't understand. There are certain things that you have to experience that as a medium, you know what it feels like, and you know how, and they're very difficult to explain to people who have not had those experiences. So I think that's a very interesting point. So I'm now gonna, go ahead. You had something to say.
One thing about that, that was the advantage of being a medium and writing her story. Yes, I have a bias. I'm the first to admit, every biographer has a bias to some degree.
Of course.
But I tried to be objective. But what I think I brought to her story was when she had a bad reading, I was able to look at her life and figure out why. You know, we all as mediums aren't 100% accurate all the time. And, you know, a cold or not feeling well or getting upsetting news will affect our mediumship.
Yes.
One of her first seances in England did not go well at all, but she had just suffered a miscarriage. She was on death's door before that. Saying she should have never done that. But back then they didn't know that. They didn't know what would and would not affect their mediumship.
Right. Right. And she probably felt she had come all this long way. She didn't want to disappoint the audience and so forth and so on. But that actually brings up a thing, because I know, as you say, you are a medium. I believe that you are also ordained. Am I correct with this? You're certified. There's a certification that you receive.
I'm a certificate holder of the Spiritualists National Union International.
That's what I'm talking about.
In mediumship and speaking, but I'm also a diploma holder for the Spiritualists National Union, an academic diploma holder for my thesis that I wrote on Maria B. Hayden, which predates the book. That's
nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So you yourself, this very kind of burgeoning of spiritualism that we often think here in America, oh, it must have started in England because all the Arthur Findlay School and all those places are over there. But in fact, it started in America. And just if you could just speak a little bit to why it was that she went, what inspired her to go to England to do this big demonstration?
Well, a friend of her husband's had gone to England, and he was a lecturer on electrobiology, and he came back to America and talked with the Haydens and found out Maria was a medium. He attended some of her seances and was convinced that she went, and said, I think the people in England would be interested in this. Well, Maria and William, her husband William, weren't so sure. They consulted the spirits, and the spirits said, yes, now is the time to go over there, and you'll be well received. Mostly she was, but she had a lot of critics as well. She had a lot of people who tried to trick her and trip her up and that sort of thing. And so that's all covered in the book. I've been able to document in her lifetime a minimum of about 130 seances.
Wow. And you actually have the details on these.
Right. I don't reprint all the details.
Right.
It would be a little more than it is now. But for some of them I do. For some of them I reproduce the details. For some of them I summarize them, what went right, what went wrong, why somebody attacked her in the press, that kind of thing.
Fascinating. So this seems to me that if you are interested in the history of the spiritualist movement, if you're interested in just a remarkable woman of the 19th century who seems to me to be kind of almost a Renaissance woman, all the different things that she did, if you're just curious about what the 19th century seance, what was that like, what the Victorian era, all that, those wonderful stories and things. This seems like this book is the perfect book for you. So I will put a little text up here when I edit this, but just tell the listeners, where can they find this book? Once again, maybe hold it up so that they can see what it looks like.
Okay. It is available on Amazon.com, Amazon.uk, or whatever there is. Any international Amazon marketplace carries the book now.
In search of Maria B. Hayden. Yes. Okay.
You can find more information. I've created a website for Maria. And by the way, this is the only known existing photograph of her. I had to trace all of her descendants to find this photograph.
Wow.
I had a photograph of her. I have a website, mariabhayden.net.
mariabhayden.net.
Yes.
And if you go there, you can find out. Well, this is just amazing, Sharon. I'm so impressed. I know from having done a little bit of this kind of work with my family and written some books in this ilk, I know how much work they are. I know how dedicated one needs to be. And I do feel that anytime we're involved in a project like this, it's because some ancestor is pushing behind us to say, now's the time, please share my story.
Yes.
So back to you for a moment.
Yeah.
I know that you are, of course, a medium, and you've mentioned your certifications and so forth, but am I right that you also teach mediumship?
I do, but I'm taking a hiatus for a while, both from
Okay.
mediumship and doing readings while I'm promoting Maria and starting on my next book. So I'm taking a little break from all of that right now. However, on the Spiritualists National Union International site, I still hold circles, teach circles there, and do demonstrations of mediumship there. So
Nice.
anybody can join the Spiritualists National Union International. You don't have to be a member, a spiritualist to join. It's very inexpensive. It's something like less than $20 for the year, and you have access to all the classes, services, lectures, everything that's on there.
Oh, wow. That's fabulous. So, did I hear you say next book? Did
Next
I
book,
hear
yeah,
you say next book?
yes, you did.
Now I'm impressed. You just finished an enormous, that's like giving birth to a 15-pound baby or something. And now you're starting another book. Do you want to give us a tiny little hint
Oh,
about
I
what
can't.
that's going to
It's
be?
not going to be on the scale of Maria. It's not even going to be as interesting to a wide audience. It's actually on my own family history.
Good.
I wrote my own Irish family history 20 years ago and have since learned and been to Ireland. And so I'm revising that. That's for the family. And that's something that's been hanging over me that I need to get done.
Yes.
So I don't know what my next book after that will be.
And I will say once again, I'm sure that there are ancestors who are just really saying, okay, come on now. You're
Well,
the
yeah,
biographer in the family. Let's get busy. Let's get it done.
my Irish ancestors have a lot of mental illness, domestic abuse. There's a lot of typical experiences that all of our ancestors had, commitment to insane asylums and that sort of thing. And their stories need to be told too.
They do. And so people who might be watching this program and who are now thinking, inspired by your story, and that, well, gee, I have a story that I would like to tell, or my family has some interesting history, or I have a person I'm interested in. If you were to offer maybe some advice for someone who might want to be beginning a writing journey like this, what might be some advice that you could offer?
I am so glad you asked that, because I am going to be starting in January, and I know this won't air until February, but I'll be doing monthly webinars on writing ancestor stories, your own story.
Perfect.
The whole bit. And for that information, you can go to my other website, which is nonfictionhelp.com, and go to the tab that says online courses and webinars. And you can sign up in advance for any of the webinars. I'll be doing a series of them every month.
That's fabulous, because I do think, especially now in this new locked up, locked down, locked in world, I think that there are a lot of people writing. I'm about to get busy on my next book as well. And I think that for many people, writing can be an overwhelming kind of situation. And I have always felt one needs to have a plan and a structure and some basic kind of tips and tools. So if you're interested, can you say the name of the website one more time where people can go for that?
Absolutely. It's nonfictionhelp, all one word, .com.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Sharon, I have enjoyed our time. The time has flown by. And once again, big congratulations on your book and all the things you're doing. And I can't wait to hear what other things you come up with, because after this woman, it'll be hard to find somebody quite as towering. I'm sure maybe it's good to actually go to family or something sort of different. But eventually, I'm sure you'll be back around the Spiritualists. There's so many amazing stories, especially during that time period. People were so much more, I want to say, diversified than they are now. You know, our education system now pretty much slots you into a thing and you get your major in this thing and then that's the thing.
Right.
But back then, people had these kind of options, and brilliant people could just do all kinds of, there were so many new areas and new fields of inquiry.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Maria's a good example of that.
Fascinating. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here you have it, Sharon DeBartolo Carmack. And I hope that you will go out and look at her book and buy yourself a copy, In Search of
Maria B. Hayden.
In Search of Maria B. Hayden. And thank you so much, Sharon, for coming on and sharing your story and your wonderful book with us today.
Thank you, Carolyn, for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed that interview. And once again, Sharon's book, if you're looking for something to read about spiritualism or remarkable women, there's just a ton of valuable information in this book. And if you're interested in purchasing it, it's available on Amazon. And this is what it looks like. So I hope you'll pick up your copy soon. Meanwhile, it has been my great pleasure to spend this time with you today. I hope that you've enjoyed your time with me in the Psychic Playroom. As always, if you would like to receive a personal reading live on air here on the show, please write me at psychicplayroom@gmail.com. Meanwhile, have a wonderful 2 weeks, and I will see you soon. This is Carolyn Wilkins saying goodbye for now.
Thoughts are things with the energy to make life better for you and for me. Touch the light.